What's going on, everybody? This is Jacob Shoup. You're watching the Tom O'Brien Show. Hope you all have been having a fantastic day. Quite good prints from Microsoft and Meta as well. Meta's CapEx will be expanding. Doesn't seem like, again, there's any real slowdown in developing kind of these data centers, which I think is good. Of course, the AI cloud has been, that was a major revenue driver for Microsoft, which I think kind of tells us, you're still kind of on, right? I mean, these guys have been posting great earnings. That's telling me, there's still a level of bullishness that exists inherently in things like the AI sector. I've been talking with some guys looking at ways to kind of develop, an AI that I can pull info from Edgar on, right? When I'm doing like my analysis on spreadsheets, it's really aggravating to have to keep looking back, and I don't want to pay for Yahoo or anything like this. SEC has free API keys, and just in a quick amount of time, they're using Claude and kind of developing agents from it, and I'm blown away just by how good. I think there's still a lot of room in this for sure, and Microsoft reports and Google's reports. That demonstrates that, right? Now, of course, we have Apple and Amazon, right? Amazon's going to face some headwinds with the potential tariffs, with the tariffs. What else are we looking at? Apple itself, now it's, to how much they're kind of exempt from these tariffs. Of course, they have a lot of supplies here now, supply of their phones that they can kind of sell. They have achieved some kind of larger market share over the past few months. iPhone 16, you didn't really see the super cycle, right? iPhone 16 and the 16e or whatever it is was a relatively big failure, especially among the community that kind of covers these devices. It didn't really have the AI on it like it was talking about. Again, Apple doesn't really have its own AI, so they'll be using something else. What else? At best, you get kind of stagnating sales in China, but we've seen, the Chinese consumer not buy as much of a lot of things. And who knows if there's some kind of, political component going on there. So we'll see what happens with Apple. I'm not feeling super bullish on Apple at all. Of course, they are trying to shift over to Vietnam. Looking at Roku right now, they have earnings. I like Roku for sure. Netflix blowing up, right? Roku blowing up is huge. They have great free cash flow last year. Yes, they have exposure to China with those TVs. They are switching over to Vietnam. And can anyone tell me, I'm seeing all this different stuff, but it seems like these kind of electronics are exempt from that, right? And seriously, they're selling a 55-inch TV for $250. That is crazy. Man, recession or not, or people tight or not, get that, right? You're off a little bit right now. If we see, I don't have any exposure right now. If we see some kind of dip in it, we'll definitely pick some up. But, they had a phenomenal year last year. I don't necessarily see that slowing down. So we'll see what happens with Roku. Again, don't have much exposure on it right now, if any at all, but definitely be following that. Again, concerned with Apple a tad. Hopefully, Amazon's an interesting case, right? Oops. They have obviously a lot of revenue coming from their cloud, which is going to be, that seems like it's tariff protected. The same thing with Microsoft, right? Now, what happens with, all the products that they sell, right? We were looking at the maritime chart yesterday. There's not a lot of stuff coming in and out, and that is going to hit pretty heavily, right? You saw a lot of the imports, and we'll talk about GDP a little bit. We should have had more time yesterday to kind of look into it. Those GDP numbers were a little bit skewed for sure, and I didn't initially see the massive increase on imports. Now, of course, the reason you lessen imports is because that is included in, the earlier components of GDP. But the fact that the imports are there and that massive means there's a lot of spending going on, right? So Are we in as bad of a situation with those numbers as anticipated? Perhaps not. Again, a lot of the real data that's coming out that's going to matter will be in this quarter for sure. Be interesting to see what happens with Amazon. But again, big Azure, the AWS platform is massive for Amazon, and it seems like that's not affected, through the likes of things like Google and Microsoft, And earlier, looking at this kind of, fear with recession, you had the breadth widening again with Mag 7 really taking a lot of it. But I mean, look at the Russell futures; these are trading up 0.95%. We're getting jobs reports soon. That's going to determine, if we're going to be able to cut some rates here. Hey, look at the 10-year rate. You were coming down. I mean, hey, look, you're trending back upwards right now, at least 4.22%. I think it's a hard thing to figure out if we're going to cut rates here pretty soon. Okay, yes, you had that weird GDP number, but again, a lot of that is, again, from that, it's getting skewed strangely by the massive increase in imports that was front-running tariffs, essentially. But with the data that we have, things seem like it's okay. Now, you're starting to see a lot of headlines on people cutting jobs, right? That might, raise some alarms at the Fed for sure. Again, their major two things is price stability and, maximum logical employment, essentially, right? So if you start seeing a massive uptick in unemployment, that can absolutely force the Fed's hand. And you were seeing that kind of sentiment developing in the bond market, right? Where, you're getting rates coming down, getting the yields coming down. But I mean, hey, look, I mean, we're trending right now. What was the lowest for today was 4.17, and that was coming off the top of 4.4 of last week on April 21st. And again, this is still kind of a downward trend here, right? At least in the short term. But you're ticking back up now 4.23%. Yeah, 5 basis points. So, and you had a weak jobless claim early. I don't know if I necessarily see the Fed cutting, at their next meeting. And I hope a lot of this isn't dependent on that. Right now, again, Meta, Microsoft earnings were great. Google earnings were pretty solid too. Some of these guys have been reporting fantastic. But if you're going to start dumping a bunch in, I mean, look at Bitcoin, right up 2.61%, followed on something with the M2 supply. That was skewed because of a declining dollar and FX noise. It's weird. It's weird. Folks, stay right there. We'll be right back with Tim Ward after the break.